Hello and welcome to Darkest Night. Today I'll be reading a story from unsettlingstories.com. The story is called The Last of the Trick-or-Treaters. Last Halloween at 11:25 PM, the doorbell rang. I'd just gotten into bed. Thinking I could ignore it and go to sleep, I clicked off the TV and pulled the covers up. The doorbell sounded again, and again, and again. I threw off the covers, put on my bathrobe and stormed out of the bedroom. If it was a group of kids playing a prank, I told myself even their parents wouldn't be able to identify their bodies. I unlocked and opened the front door. On the doorstep was a young boy wearing a Native American headdress and an ornately beaded leather vest and pants. He was clutching a bag of candy to his chest. No one else was around. It was unseasonably cold that night, and without any adults around, I couldn't let the kid stay out there and freeze. He looked miserable. I held him by his shoulder and guided him inside, then I picked him up and placed him on the couch. I didn't know what to do. Calling the police seemed like the only safe bet, so I dialed the non-emergency number. While I waited on hold, I heated up some water to make the kid a mug of hot chocolate. The kid stared at me while I stood in the kitchen. He didn't say a word. I felt bad for the little guy. The receptionist at the police station answered, and I told her what was going on. She said she hadn't heard anything about any missing kids, but as soon as a car was free, she would send one over. She cautioned it might be a while though. Apparently, Halloween's a busy time for them over there. With the water boiled and the instant hot chocolate made, I went over to the kid and sat down next to him on the couch. I placed the mug on the table across from us. After cautioning him that it was hot, I figured I needed to talk to him. "Nice costume," I told him. It wasn't really that nice. Pretty culturally insensitive nowadays, but whatever. "Thanks," he replied. "So, did you lose your parents?" I asked. The kid shook his head. "How about your friends or your brothers and sisters?" Again, no. "Want to try the hot chocolate? It's really good." "I don't like chocolate." "Oh, okay." I picked up the mug and started drinking, wondering if the kid was slow or something. Who doesn't like chocolate? We sat in silence for a little while. He kept his eyes on the unpowered television while I did everything in my power not to appear creepy. I never know how to act around kids. "Did you have a good time trick-or-treating?" I asked, then realised it was a stupid question. He'd gotten separated from his family and friends. How could it have been good? The kid, to my surprise, nodded. "I got what I wanted," he said. "Oh, and what was that?" The doorbell rang and I hopped off the couch and answered it. 2 officers. I invited them in. They saw the boy on the sofa. They greeted him and asked him the same questions I had. He had nothing to say to them though. In fact, he looked angry, almost like he hated them. After a few minutes of getting nowhere, the officers said they were going to bring him back to the station. There still hadn't been any reports of missing children. As they were about to leave, there was a call on the police radio, something about a murder on 113 Chestnut Place. The 3 of us stood very still for a moment. I live at 115 Chestnut. My neighbours, Paul and Lynn Chesney, had lived there for decades and were the curators at the local museum. The officers answered the call on the radio and said that they were nearby. They were told backup would be there shortly. "Wait here," the cops ordered, and the kid and I just looked at each other while the 2 men left the house and headed next door. "Don't worry, it's okay," I promised the boy. He looked flat, unaffected. Then he turned and looked straight at me. "Bring this to the MTIC. It all belongs to them." He handed me his bag. I was extremely confused for a second, wondering why the local Mohegan tribe would want this Halloween candy. I opened the bag and gasped. A bloody stone knife sat atop a pile of beautiful beaded vestments, ornate carvings and other old-looking artifacts. "Your neighbours have been keeping these from us. We tried to get them back, but they just laughed and mocked our efforts. But they're too important to give up, especially after we've been forced to give up so much." I stood like an idiot, holding the bag as sirens approached and the commotion outside grew. "Give it to them," the kid shouted with a deep adult voice that was entirely out of place coming from his small body. And with that, he vanished. The headdress and pants and vest just dropped in a pile on the rug. I spent a good 45 minutes convincing myself I hadn't gone nuts. Hours later, an officer came back for the boy. "What happened over there?" I asked the cop. I already knew, but I needed confirmation. Looks like the couple got killed in a robbery attempt, he told me. Their daughter came home from a Halloween party and found them with their throats cut. I'm sorry. I let out a long sigh and nodded. Where's the kid? The officer asked. I had an answer ready. There was a family going door to door with a picture of him. I guess he'd run away, but he's back with them now. The cop shook his head. And they didn't even call us? Christ. He paused. Well, okay, good night. I'm sorry about your neighbours. We'll have officers in the area to find out whoever's done this. I thanked him and closed the door. It was almost 5 AM. It was too late to go to bed, and I had work in a couple of hours. So I sat down at my computer with the kid's bag on the desk next to me, and I mapped out directions for my drive to the MTIC. That was the last of the trick-or-treaters from unsettlingstories.com. If you did enjoy this video, please do not forget to like and subscribe. And be sure to comment below with any spooky stories that you've ever experienced. Or if you've got any topics that you'd like us to cover, please let us know. Thanks for watching.